We're in a crisis where they don't even really have an answer. As a result of that, more and more people are going to die.
Baltimore. Its official motto is the Charm City, but that can be hard to find. Drug use litters this place. A decade ago, heroin was the main killer. Now it's the powerful synthetic substance, fentanyl. And that's mirrored across the country, where fentanyl is the main cause of overdose deaths and the #1 killer of adults under 50.
People are dying drastically.
Marlo Hargrove Sr. is a former heroin addict turned community activist. He walks the streets trying to help people recover and reintegrate into society. But that could be hard when they're dependent on something so deadly.
They know that there's a possibility that they may die from it. But to suppress the feeling that I have to live with every day of being here in the Baltimore streets, of being homeless, of being disabled, incarceration, that's just levels that they have to deal with on top of the fentanyl usage.
I mean, having battled addiction yourself with heroin and gotten off it, do you think you'd be able to do the same with fentanyl?
No. I know if I was to actually go back out and use fentanyl, I would be dead.
Fentanyl is evident here, but also hidden, because many may not even know they're taking it. Given it's cheap to make, it's often mixed in with other drugs, at a time when many Americans are reliant on pain medication. We're more than 20 years into America's opioid epidemic. It's claimed more than 1 million lives, and it's come in waves. At the start, people were given opioids to deal with issues such as chronic pain, but then they became addicted. And so when the pills became too expensive or the prescription ran out, they turned to other drugs, like heroin. That was the second wave. And now here we are in the third wave, where fentanyl is the most addictive and deadly drug in the United States.
No, I really ain't seen no other drugs though that do what that do to people.
I meet Norman outside a van run by a community health group that provides support to vulnerable and at-risk individuals. Norman became addicted to Percocet, a prescription opioid painkiller, after he'd been shot. But he then took a pill laced with fentanyl and he almost died.
I remember giving my daughter a bath and then going upstairs and I laid down and then I just woke up and there was like 10 ambulance, like people around me. I didn't know who they was.
Norman survived thanks to Narcan, a nasal spray that can counter the effects of an overdose. That's a miracle cure, but a short-term fix, given so many appear willing to take fentanyl again and again.
A lot of people like the fake Percocets with the fentanyl in them too though. There's people who, that's what they want, that's what they chasing that.
Why are they chasing it when they know it's got fentanyl in it and they know what it can do?
That's what some people like. That's what, I guess they playing a dangerous game, but that's what some people like.
A dangerous game that saw 100,000 overdose deaths in 2021, a new record high, exacerbated by the pandemic and the rise of fentanyl. Kelly Gill's son Randy struggled with addiction after being prescribed drugs following an injury. He died of an overdose of crack cocaine laced with fentanyl.
I went down and helped him set up his apartment like parents do. And he died in the bed that I had purchased. This is so odd, but there is a comfort for me in that I provided his first bed and his last bed because we know that's not the norm. He, by all measures, could have died on the street, anywhere.
Following Randy's death, Kelly started a group to support parents with children addicted to drugs or who've lost a child like her.
The majority of parents we work with and speak to, and they are all over the country, feel strongly that their child didn't know that that batch was going to have a fatal amount of fentanyl in it.
As this epidemic scars this city, a range of solutions have been offered. Joe Biden wants Congress to invest $46 billion in treatment and harm reduction and to stop drug trafficking from Mexico. Republicans say that's not enough, with some even suggesting the U.S. Army should go into Mexico to take down the cartels.
I'm angered when politicians like to bring up the fentanyl crisis to complain about what their partner on the other side of the aisle isn't doing. And yet, a quick lookup of their record will show you they're not doing anything either.
Is there a way to solve the fentanyl problem? No.
Not no one person, not at all. There's people that's got a lot more power than us, and you and me both.
Right now, it doesn't seem that there's any solution, and it seems to be getting worse. By the second, people are dying.
For those on the front line of this deadliest of epidemics, America's political divides are of no help in fighting a drug that's spilling through society. And so the country is walking further into a tragedy with little help or hope.
Kieran Woodley with that devastating report. Well, just before we came on air, I spoke to Ben Westhoff, who spent years investigating the hazardous world of synthetic drugs and the illegal industry behind the opioid epidemic. I began by asking him whether it was possible to tackle the fentanyl crisis, given how cheap it is to produce.
I don't think so. You know, making heroin requires fields of opium poppies and resources, and law enforcement can get at it. But a synthetic drug like fentanyl can just be made in a lab very quickly, and it's 50 times stronger than heroin.
There's never been anything like it then?
There's never been anything that's been so powerful and so versatile, because fentanyl can be cut into any white powder, and it is pills, meth, cocaine, heroin. Any pill or powder sold on the black market could have fentanyl.
And are most of the people who are dying because they thought they were taking something else?
A lot of people are traditionally, a lot of kids especially, they take a pill they got at a party, they think it's a regular pharmaceutical, like from their parents' medicine cabinet, but really it has fentanyl. Even more recently, though, there's been a more disturbing trend, which is people are asking for fentanyl by name now. And the Mexican cartels are putting out these Skittles pills, they're called, these multicolored rainbow pills that
Candy.
have fentanyl. Yeah, they look like candy. And the thing is, no one thinks these are real pharmaceutical pills. People know these have fentanyl and they still want them.
I mean, does that make any kind of campaign against it really difficult? One, if you're kind of targeting, a very gullible audience, but also if you keep cutting the stuff with other drugs and people just don't know what they're actually taking.
Yeah, you would think so. Unfortunately, there's very low awareness, despite all the deaths. COVID really dominated the news in recent years. So a lot of people, especially young people, just don't know anything about fentanyl and these other drugs, and they still think it's fairly safe to take some of these drugs.
And how much would you blame America's well-established, decades-long addiction to painkillers as sort of prepping the ground for this stuff?
100%. Yeah, the overprescription of drugs like OxyContin created something like 2 million new opioid users in America. And so all the heroin in the country wasn't enough. There was a vacuum, and fentanyl filled the void, and that's what we're still dealing with now.
You advised the White House on what to do about this. President Biden has declared this is one of the major, public health crises, criminal crises in America. What are you telling them to do?
Well, first of all, we need better education programs. Like I said, nobody knows even about this despite all the deaths. Second, we need to increase medication-assisted treatment programs for addicted people who are addicted to opioids. They might have been heroin users, for decades, but they take one dose cut with fentanyl and they die. Instead, they should be taking these good medication-assisted treatment drugs, methadone, buprenorphine, and naltrexone, but the vast majority of addicted users aren't receiving it.
Do you ever, at the moment we talk about this being an American problem, do you think it might become a problem in this country and in Europe?
Yeah, I think it's unfortunately fairly inevitable it's going to come to Europe, and it already is to some extent. We're seeing more deaths in the UK, in Scandinavia, The thing is, the profit incentive is just so strong. For drug dealers, they can double, triple, quadruple their profits by cutting the drugs with fentanyl. and the cartels are actually moving into Europe too. So to me, it seems like only a matter of time.
Ben Westhoff, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.